Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributors Joe Concha, Charlie Hurt, and Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Congressman, I'll start with you. The idea that the Department of Justice is tipping off one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet, Facebook, and erroneously labeling it as Russian disinformation, so they had the justification to, hey, we're going to suppress this. How is that not just another example of political bias at the Department of Justice? And what in the world can you do about it as a member of the Judiciary Committee there in the House?
Well, this stinks to high heavens, Jason. And it is a great example of the political bias that we've seen and you've been discussing tonight. But I will tell you this. Zuckerberg doesn't have clean hands because he distributed over $400 million to try to influence the election. So he was really a susceptible target to FBI disinformation, and that's what it was here about this election. And so what the Judiciary Committee is going to have to do, and the Oversight Committee as well, we're going to have to get in and get the FBI, and we're going to have to bring this thing to ground. We're going to have to find out who actually approved this disinformation campaign to Facebook and Twitter and the big tech behemoths that are going to influence the election. That's critical, Jason, and I think we can do it with Jim Jordan. I hope will be the chairman there, and Jamie Comer and Oversight, and we're ready to do it. I've actually been talking with the chairman of Oversight today about some of these issues. So we're ready to go, and I told him, I said, we need to get our preservation letters going. We need to make sure we're ready to go on day one to bring that FBI in, because Christopher Wray just a couple of months ago said, well, look, you know, if that happened, that'd be problematic. It's not problematic.
Yeah.
It is potentially criminal in nature.
Well, look, Director Wray was hired to clean up the FBI, but all you have to do is read through the 1,000 pages for the Inspector General, and you'll find more than a dozen instances where the FBI used its political influence to affect elections. Joe, who else besides Clinton and Biden get this kind of heads up and this sort of political help from what is supposed to be the impartial Department of Justice?
Well, that's the big question, JC, right? And it's beyond alarming that here you have the U.S. government in the form of the FBI telling a very private and quite large communications platform, we're talking billions of members, what news should and should not be shared on their platforms. And Facebook, they didn't outright censor the Hunter Biden story, sure, like Twitter did, but they sure did suppress it, per Zuckerberg's own admission. And what strikes me most about this clip was how nonchalant Zuckerberg was in sharing this information with Joe Rogan, like he was talking about his trip to, Bed Bath & Beyond, as if the FBI coming to him to warn him about a specific story, obviously negative to the Democratic nominee. It's all perfectly normal. And by the way, Jason, here's what I want to know. Did the FBI go to Zuckerberg about other stories during that campaign season? For instance, did they advise him, speaking of Russia, to be highly, highly skeptical about the now debunked story that the Russians had bounties on U.S. troops and Trump ignored it? Because that was a huge story in 2020. Biden even broached it during the debates as a gotcha. It turns out it was completely false, but it appears the FBI had no issue with that story being amplified on Facebook and on Twitter. And the big question also now is, top brass at the FBI, and we're certainly not talking about the boots on the ground, the people that do the hard work, but the top people, are they taking sides politically against a political party? That's the question that we have. And Zuckerberg and Chris Wray, Trump-appointed FBI director, they need to be resummoned to Capitol Hill to explain all of this when Republicans take back control of Congress. It is vital that we need to start, trusting our institutions again, Jason.
Yeah, and that is the heart of the issue. Lady Justice is supposed to have that blindfold, but I got to tell you, Clinton's and Biden's get a special kind of treatment. And then when you have two sitting United States senators, Charlie, asking for information, and those documents are being slow-walked, I mean, what is the public to do? How are you going to gain trust back in the system if our elected representatives and senators cannot get to the heart of this information?
Well, honestly, I hate to say it, Jason, but I think that the only way that the FBI and the DOJ reclaim credibility is to clean house. And I don't think the DOJ is capable of cleaning house themselves. I think it has to be done by Congress. That's or the executive branch in 2 years. That's the only way you root out this level of rot. Let's not forget the FBI did everything they could to rig the 2016 election. They failed, but they refused to prosecute Hillary Clinton for what was clearly crimes they admit were crimes. They spied on Donald Trump, a candidate for president at the height of a presidential campaign. And it's like we're starting to realize now, 2020, they were just hell-bent to do what they failed to do in 2016. It's almost like they were as angry as Mark Zuckerberg was that his platform got used by an army of Trump supporters to spread the message and the issues and the campaign that Donald Trump was running on. And they were just hell-bent on using their power. There's extraordinary power in order to destroy Donald Trump and prop up Joe Biden. And then, of course, we now have the situation where you have the FBI literally going after Republicans in the United States Senate and preventing them from doing their jobs. These are massive constitutional issues. And if they don't get addressed, we are screwed as a country.
Well, here's why I'm so skeptical and truly worried. Kevin Kleinsmith worked at the FBI, altered documents.
Yep.
Guess what? He pled guilty to that.
Yep.
And just a few months later, the bar reinstated him to full service. He is a practicing attorney. No problem. Keep on.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.